What is up, ballers? Today we're going to make one of those garbage tier list videos, but this time about leveling in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Whenever I say leveling, I just mean questing. There's a lot of different ways to level, but we're just going to talk about questing. I'm going to give you how each class does mob to mob, how their cleave / AoE is, and whether or not they can solo elites easily, because all of that plays a factor in whether or not you can level quickly. I'm also going to give you guys a talent build along with glyphs and one special tip for each class. So let's get into it. Warrior is number 1. Warrior is very strong, unlike in other expansions. There are two very powerful methods of questing. One is Taste for Blood Arm Spec, where you're basically just pumping overpowers into every mob, and it's great mob to mob. It feels amazing. You can cleave mobs down with sweeping strikes, which also makes it great AoE. However, you're probably just going to have to go some kind of prop build in order to solo elites. The other build is the Revenge build. It's pretty agreed upon that the Revenge build is overall better, especially if you have worse gear, but a lot of people don't like it because you have to wait for Revenge to trigger by blocking, dodging, or parrying something, and that can just get really annoying having to do that every single mob. The mob is fine mob to mob, but since Revenge can hit up to 2 things, there's no reason not to just dual cleave everything down. You can also easily solo elites as Revenge build. My tip for Warrior is to make sure that you're spamming Recklessness and Retaliation on cooldown. They only have a 5-minute cooldown in Wrath, and they're very easy to forget since you need to be in Berserker or Battle Stance to use these, and so you probably put them on your stance bar, and so you probably can't see the cooldown when you're not in that stance. Overall, it's going in S+. Up next is Paladin, and as I recently talked about in my Paladin leveling video, they're pretty insane and insanely fun. Ret's mob to mob is fine, and its cleave is amazing. It has endless sustain, lots of fun. You do have to switch to Prot Spec to solo any elite, but that's fine. Just the fact that they have that option there, and it's even possible to solo elites, just makes it top tier. My tip is to just stay in Steel of Command all the time, even if you're not cleaving. It's just no big deal to not switch it out. And make sure that you're pulling every single mob with your taunt ability. It does damage if the mob isn't targeting you. The next one is Hunter. Hunter is a little underwhelming compared to how they were doing other expansions. They were doing amazingly in Vanilla and in TBC, but in Wrath they're not really keeping up. I experimented with every kind of build, including a hybrid survival and marksman build to get the volley pushback reduction in marksman, just to mass AoE mobs down, and it just really is not that good. I tried BM, your pet still doesn't hold aggro. You have an okay shot at soloing some elites, but you probably won't be able to get the hard ones down because your pet is just going to take way too much damage and die. My tip for Hunter is to make sure that you're getting Concussive Barrage. This talent makes Chimera Shot slow, and since you're Chimera Shotting every single mob, it's very consistently good and has a very nice flow to it. Hunter goes in the B tier. Alright, up next is Rogue, my favorite class. Rogue is pretty much as powerful as it always is in any expansion. It's got a great rotate through building and spending combo points on each mob, and you don't have any mana to worry about, so you can just keep going and going and going as long as you have health. Its cleave is pretty decent with Blade Flurry, but whenever that's down, it just feels kind of bad when you see a good cleave opportunity and you can't really take advantage of it. You have 0 chance at soloing any elites. My tip for Rogue is to make sure that you're getting the Remorseless Attacks talent, no matter what spec you are. Also, if you're combat, you're going to want to get Unfair Advantage. This talent's completely broken. You can level as any spec. Sub is a lot better if you have great weapons and the mobs have low health, but combat is great in any situation. Moving right along, we have Priest. Priest is never a good leveler in any expansion, and Wrath is no exception to that. It's the only class that got worse when pre-patch came out in TBC because Wand Spec was removed from the game, and now you have to actually cast your spells. You have all the dots of an Affliction Warlock, but with triple the mana cost. Even with good, high intellect gear, I wasn't able to pull more than 3 mobs because I just ran out of mana from dotting everything. I've tried a ton of different builds, but overall the kit that Priest has is just not that amazing. Do whatever you feel like, it's just gonna be slow. Since Wand Spec was removed and you have to actually cast, you're gonna be casting in the face of mobs, and you'll really want a pushback negation talent. But weirdly, Priest and Boomkins don't have a talent that negates it by any percent. They do, however, have a talent that reduces it by 70%. It doesn't negate it, it reduces it. So you still take the pushback, but you take 70% of the regular pushback amount that you normally do. It's really weird. I don't know why Blizzard did this in Wrath. My tip for Priest is overall just try and have fun with it. It's not going to be amazing. Priest goes in the C tier. Alright, now we're on Death Knight. You're probably expecting me to rank Death Knight as some insane or #1 crazy leveling class, and you're wrong. They're really just not that fantastic at leveling. They can do great things, but they're not really great at anything other than soloing stuff as blood. But for questing, that doesn't apply. You can do whatever you want as any spec, but I found doing big AoE pulls while questing, you just kind of got messed up. You lost a lot of health, and it was really dangerous. You didn't kill these mobs fast enough, or even in 2 rune rotations, so you would just die as anything other than blood. I decided to just go 1 mob at a time and play as Frost in Unholy Presence because it's just a lot of buttons to mash, and it was really fun for me. My tip for the class is to make sure that you're using the Glyph of Death Grip. Resetting that on cooldown feels insanely good, and you can just grab anything 1 by 1 in a quest hub. Yeah, you're only killing things 1 at a time, but it's a bit faster because you can just grab it from 30 yards away. DK goes in the A tier. Alright, now we're on to Shaman. Shamans were extremely poor levelers in vanilla. I'd say that they were the worst, but this improves massively in TBC because of Enhance being fleshed out as a spec, and it improves even more in Wrath. While Enhance doesn't have much cleave outside of using Maelstrom stacks on Chain Lightning, dropping a Magma Totem, and using Fire Nova, single target mob kill speeds make up for it. It is insanely fast. Even with ridiculously horrible gear, this thing is a machine and is insanely fun, even more so than Red. Your cooldowns are so insanely powerful. I was able to solo any elite in the game that I even tried very easily with Lust, Wolves, Fire Elemental, Earth Elemental. It's insane. Shaman is going in S tier. My tip is that since heirlooms are kind of weird, really the best thing to do is to get 2 massive McGowans. You want that weapon sinking, and there is no weapon that you can use from Stonekeeper shards. Also, don't even consider playing Elemental, it's way slower. I tried it. Alright, now we're going to talk about Mage a little bit. Mage's AoE has always been really crazy throughout the expansions, and that's still true. It's still really crazy in Wrath, but their single target is just bad. There's no way to say it. It's pretty bad. I tried to make it fun and fresh. I tried to play Arcane, I tried to play Frost, I tried to play Frostfire. They're all just not very good. They all have really high mana cost or really long cast that just doesn't really do it. You still kill mobs faster single target as Frost, so just stay Frost. The best thing you can do is just pull literally every mob in sight, and AoE quest is Frost. Most elite quests in Wrath you can't slow or CC in any way, and so that's just not going to happen. You're not going to do it. My tip is to actually deep subspec Arcane before you complete the Frost tree. You'll want to get 1 out of 3 points and improve Water Elemental for the replenishment talent, and then immediately go down Arcane and grab Torment the Weak. This is going to give another 12% damage to your Frost Bolts after the first one because the target will be slowed, and is a pretty massive boost to your single target damage. I chose to do this because Deep Freeze doesn't add any consistent damage. You can't use it on every mob because of its cooldown, and it doesn't deal damage. Alright, now we're on to Warlock. Warlock gets a huge power spike going from vanilla to TBC because the improved Drain Soul talent goes from amplifying your spirit, like Spirit Tap, to just giving you a flat return on your total mana, which is insanely broken. But even not using that talent at all, you're still so insanely busted that you're one of the best levelers by far. You can solo non-hard-hitting elites by drain lifing yourself, and this spec is just so insanely fun. Basically, you just want to start off by just dotting everything and waiting for it to die. My tip for this class is if you have really bad gear and the quest mobs have a lot of health, you can just put up Corruption on everything, cast Seed of Corruption, pop it with a Drain Life, and then Seed again. You can often burst mobs down all at once this way, a lot faster than just waiting for the dots to kill everything individually. Warlock gets an A, mostly because it just can't solo elites. Last and maybe least is the Druid. You'd always previously gone Feral on your Druid through vanilla and even in TBC, but Boomkins have a massive power spike expansion. Oh, and Starfall. Druid is a lot like Mage, where it just has insane AoE, but its single target is a little lackluster. You might be able to solo some elites by switching to a tank Feral spec and bear farming it, but I didn't even try because you need an entirely different gear set for that. Boomkin AoE is a little bit different than Mage because you can't really CC the mobs while you're AoEing them. You'll have to tank them. You can do that by pulling them with Starfall and then casting Hurricane and bark skinning yourself to prevent the pushback. But like I said with Priest, you have a pushback reduction talent, and you can only be pushed back twice, so you don't even need Bark Skin. Bark Skin will cause you to take less damage while you're tanking all these mobs, but you can full channel a Hurricane while 8+ mobs are hitting you, because they'll push back you twice and then not ever again, and so you can just channel a full cast Hurricane while multiple things are hitting you, and you can just keep casting and you'll be able to kill it eventually. Druid goes in the B tier with the Mage. So that's the tier list, guys. Overall, if you're playing anything in the bottom half, I'd recommend to just have fun with it, do some dungeons, do some battlegrounds, just kind of take it easy. But if you're in the top half, you could really put your nose to the grindstone and just completely hammer this out in like a day with the Joyous Journeys buff. Like, you are a machine on any of these things. You can get this done as soon as possible. It is crazy how good these classes are. Alright, thanks for watching, gamers. I hope you guys enjoy leveling your alts, and make sure that you do it this month because Joyous Journeys is going to go away. You don't want to be leveling without it because 50% is huge. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and sub.